They were terrified of the water, and they were even more terrified of the man sleeping through it. Picture this. It's night. The Sea of Galilee, a small wooden boat, 12 grown men, some of them fishermen who've been on this water their entire lives. And the waves are so violent, so relentless that the boat is already filling up. These aren't rookies panicking over choppy water. These are professionals, and they are convinced they are going to die. And Jesus is asleep on a cushion in the back of the boat. Just asleep, completely still, while everything around him is chaos. They wake him up. Mark records their exact words, and honestly, the tone is a little accusatory. They don't say, "Lord, please help us." They say, "Teacher, don't you care if we drown?" That's panic talking. That's the voice of someone who has completely lost the thread. That's the voice that says God must not be paying attention, because if he was, surely he would have fixed this by now. Sound familiar? Jesus gets up, and here's the part that should stop you cold. He doesn't pray, he doesn't ask his father to intervene, he doesn't close his eyes and seek divine guidance. He just turns to the storm, and he speaks to it directly. He says, "Quiet, be still." And it stops, immediately, completely, dead calm. The Greek word used here is phemo. It means to muzzle, to silence forcibly, like you'd silence an animal. Jesus didn't negotiate with the storm. He muzzled it, like it was out of line, like it had overstepped. Then he turns to his disciples, these grown, terrified, soaking wet men, and he doesn't comfort them. He doesn't say, "It's okay, you're safe now." He asks them two questions. Why are you so afraid? Do you still have no faith? Still, that word is doing a lot of work. Do you still have no faith? After everything you've seen, after everything you've witnessed, after all of it, you still defaulted to panic. And before you judge them, sit with that for a second. Because here's what's actually happening in the story. These men had Jesus in the boat, physically present, right there with them, and they still spiraled into full terror. They had the Son of God 6 feet away, and their brains still said, "We are going to die and no one is coming." Anxiety doesn't care about logic. Fear doesn't check the facts first. The storm felt real. The water filling the boat was real. And the part of their brain responsible for survival completely overrode everything else they knew to be true. That's not weakness. That's being human. But here's what Jesus is pointing at with that question. Faith isn't the absence of the storm. Faith is the ability to remember who's in the boat with you while the storm is happening. That's it. That's the whole thing. Not pretending it isn't scary, not performing calm you don't feel, just remembering, in the middle of it, that you are not alone in this. The disciples didn't fail because they were scared. They failed because in their fear, they concluded that Jesus didn't care. Don't you care if we drown? That's the real crisis, not the storm, the belief that they had been abandoned to it. That's the question underneath most anxiety, if you're honest enough to look. Not just, will this work out, but does anyone actually care that I'm going through this? Is anyone paying attention? Am I completely on my own here? And the answer Jesus gives isn't a speech. It's not a theological argument. He just stands up and ends the storm, as if to say, I care enough to stop it with a word. Here's what I want you to take from this. The storm was never outside of his authority, not for 1 second. The disciples experienced it as chaos because from where they were sitting, it looked like chaos. But Jesus wasn't sleeping because he was indifferent. He was sleeping because he was at peace, because he knew something they hadn't yet fully grasped, that there is no storm, no circumstance, no situation in your life that sits outside the reach of his voice. He didn't calm the storm from a distance. He was in the boat, in the mess, in the middle of it with them. That detail matters more than people realize. He doesn't watch your chaos from somewhere safe and comfortable. He's in it, right there, on the same water. And sometimes, not always, not on our timeline, he stands up and speaks, and everything goes quiet. And sometimes, the miracle isn't that the storm stops. Sometimes the miracle is that somehow, inexplicably, you find the strange, stubborn, irrational peace in the middle of it. A peace that makes no logical sense given what you're facing. A peace that feels almost offensive to the circumstances around you. That's not denial. That's the same thing Jesus had on that cushion. That's what it looks like when someone knows, really knows, who they are and who holds them. The disciples asked, "Who is this man that even the wind and waves obey him?" They weren't ready for the full answer yet, but they were starting to understand. The question for you is simpler. Whatever storm you're in right now, whatever is filling your boat, whatever is keeping you up at night, whatever has you convinced that you have been left alone to drown in it, he's in the boat. He hasn't moved.